Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. And today I'm going to talk about a recent Kino Blu-ray release from 1961. And this is Please Not Now, starring Brigitte Bardot and directed by Roger Vadim. You can't underestimate or exaggerate Brigitte Bardot's fame in 1961. She was a worldwide sensation, a phenomenon. She had a very unique mystique about her. The camera absolutely loved her. Her previous film, one of her previous films, "And God Created Woman," a couple of years before Please Not Now, was a success all around the world, and that was her real breakout performance. In the U.S., it became the highest grossing non-English language film up to its time. A lot of that having to do with the censorship and all the controversy over the censorship as far as the nudity in this film and all the sexual connotations along with it. But she was, especially in France, she was followed around by the paparazzi unceasingly. Her nickname was the Sex Kitten, and Bardot in this movie, which is a comedy, she even slyly references her sex kitten appellation, and BB was in the newspapers almost every day for all her sexual affairs, suicide attempts, or just brazenly, her sort of brazenly, for a woman especially, her kind of sexual liberation was what she was. Remember, this is sort of the Playboy era. Now, Please Not Now is very much a conventional rom-com. Bardot plays Sophie. She's a model. She's very high-strung, and her boyfriend, who is a photographer, dumps her in the beginning of the film for a rich American heiress, and this drives Sophie crazy, and she seeks revenge. And so there's a scene in a crowded Paris restaurant where she has a cream pie, and she goes to him and throws the cream pie in his face. And there's a couple of doctors on the make at the next booth, and one of them befriends Sophie and tries to help her because Sophie is obsessed with getting revenge against this photographer who has dumped her. So he helps her out, but he's basically trying to shield her from actually doing the kind of revenge that Sophie wants to do. We get one of the really highlights of this film is we get a lot of outdoor photography of Paris, the streets of Paris. I always love it, what Paris looked like 60 years ago. That's pretty much the first 2/3 of the film, and then we go to an alpine resort up in the mountains, lots of snow. So this is a really good-looking film. Now, it's not in color, and I gotta admit, I love black and white, but I gotta admit, Brigitte Bardot looks really good in color. But we do have black and white CinemaScope, and I love that format as well. And it's this restoration, or this edition of Please Not Now has just gorgeous black and white photography. It's a comedy, and I thought it was very funny. I mean, at least I laughed several times in this movie. I don't always laugh when I'm sitting home alone, because Bardot really did have a flair for comedy. I mean, she was a terrific comic actress, great timing. She had great movement. She has studied to be a dancer, and she does in fact dance in this movie. But even when she's just walking through the film, through the streets of Paris, she's quite compelling in every sense, and she had this big hairdo. She'd only recently become blonde. In her early films. She was a brunette, but what people wanted in 1961 from Bardot was nudity, because she was very comfortable doing nudity. In the commentary, we hear that the technician said she would often walk around the set fully nude. But we don't really get much. I mean, by today's standards, we get a very teasing shoulder. You see shoulders, and the camera goes down a little bit, and then we do get a shot of her derriere. But the famous one, the famous nude scene in this film is a dance scene in a nightclub. And her boyfriend, this doctor, is sort of daydreaming as he watches the dancer in the performing in this nightclub. He has a daydream that it's Sophie, and she strips down and fully nude, turns the camera, but it's all in a hazy fog. And in fact, I thought, boy, did they really shoot that nude? But she was in a bodysuit. But it looks pretty pretty convincing otherwise. And for a Brigitte Bardot comedy, you would expect some sex. You know, we do get these nude shots, but there's no sex here, and that really surprised me. And I you know, it's almost puritanical view of sex that Sophie has. So when this doctor boyfriend has to spend the night in her apartment, she demands that he sleep on the floor, which he does. Then when they're on a train going to the Alps, he's in the upper booth and she ties his hands to the rail so he can't get at her. And then when they're at the hotel, they could only afford the cheapest room, which was like the storage room, which had a bed and a bathtub. And even by this point where she's beginning to have feelings for this doctor and beginning to forget her lover that has jilted her, she sleeps in the bathtub. And this is a very hedonistic era. So, you know, the Playboy era, and the sexually liberated woman. That's what Bardot really portrays. And for men at that time, this was something you didn't see in movies before. So Bardot was very beautiful. She was very sexy. She didn't mind doing nudity. She had multiple affairs, and in God Created Woman, she had a infamous, or at least in the gossip columns and the newspapers of France, she had an infamous affair with Jean-Louis Trintignant. I think he made his debut film in that movie. And she says, when the passion goes, I go. And so she's named all her many lovers, including very famous people like Warren Beatty. But she insists it was not with Sean Connery. He made advances, but I spurned Sean Connery. So because of Brigitte Bardot being a sex symbol, I was very curious to see, or to listen to the commentary by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, who is a film scholar and does a lot of great commentaries, and this is a really good one too. But I wanted to see how she would relate this kind of sex symbol of Brigitte Bardot to the modern feminist ideology that prevails on campus and in the society at large. And she tries her best. And it's a hard thing to do with Bardot because Bardot made very many comments in her opposition, her vehement opposition to feminism. She retired in 1973. I think she was only 39 years old. She's still with us. I think she'll be 90 this year. But she retired, in her word, elegantly. So she left before the ravages of time would deny her any kind of real movie roles. But in point of fact, her subsequent movie career in the late 60s was not going all that well, but she was a big star. She's always up there with the title or above the title. So when she retired, she also became an active animal rights supporter. But beyond that, and this is where Alexandra Heller-Nicholas's commentary has to pause with us, because after that, she became politically very right-wing. She would say outrageous things in interviews, and she was taken to court several times, in which she ended up being fined by the court. And she is a strong supporter of Marie Le Pen's National Rally Party, and her husband a long time associated with that political party. So it's tough to see her in this political climate, which is both puritanically, you know, as far as what kind of image women should display in movies, but also this sort of, you know, right-wing fear and hatred of immigrants, because most of her comments were concerning immigration. What kind of actress was she? I thought she was really good. I thought Brigitte Bardot, as far as being you know, a sex symbol, always surprises me whenever I see her films. I thought she was very good in God Created Women. I think her best performance, though, is in Henri-Georges Clouzot's La Verite, which is in the Criterion Collection. I did a video on this movie a while back. I'll link to that video for anybody who may be interested in. Clouzot, really, this was a very serious, dramatic role, and especially in this courtroom scene, and her lawyer right there is one of my favorite actors, Charles Vanel. She really has an emotional scene in here that really proves that she could really do it if given a chance. And then, of course, the other film that she's remembered for, big-time film, is La Mépris, Contempt by Jean-Luc Godard, in which he plays Michel Piccoli's wife. It's also starring Jack Palance, and Fritz Lang's in it as well. She's very good in this. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but the scenes she gets are very good. Now, Godard was chastised when he presented his final cut to the producers, said, you don't have enough skin. People come to Bardot movies to see skin, so Godard put this opening segment, this very famous opening segment, where the camera just goes, pans back and forth across Bardot naked on a bed, face down on the bed, in which he uses all these different filters as he goes back and forth. And Michel Piccoli says, I love this, and he names all the body parts. And, do you love this? Bardot said. It's an extraneous scene to the film, but it's one I think a lot of people are going to remember. Okay, so that'll wrap up. Please, now it's not gotten much attention on movie channels on Blu-ray, but it's a funny film, and if you've never seen Brigitte Bardot before, this is a pretty good entryway into her film career. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.